Hey, we're back with another ad podcast this week. We've had three, so it's been a great week. We've got a great guest for you today. Ian Murphy is the president of BosleyMD, which is a hair loss prevention company and a wellness company and a beauty company. He has been a brand leader and operator at other beauty brands like L'Oreal, Garnier, and TRESemmé. Ian, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you very much. And thank you to your audience for joining us here for a few minutes.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, why don't we hop in, man? You've got a really great background in the beauty and wellness and hair care space. You've worked with all the big boys. You've worked with some major brands. You've been behind some huge marketing budgets. And I think I read somewhere in your bio that you talked your way into your first job at L'Oreal, or you might have to tell me a little bit about that.
Right.
But why don't you give us a little bit of the cliff notes? Let people know who we're talking to today.
I appreciate the intro. Should hire you as my PR guy. Anyway, I actually was flying planes in the UK. I actually had an Air Force scholarship. I was destined.
Let's go.
I thought I was going to be a fighter pilot, and then when we pulled a few hard G turns here and there, left and right and up and down, I was like, you know what? I don't know if my body really likes that idea.
I hear it's pretty grueling.
Yeah. Look, and props to Tom Cruise for doing it. In his movies, I don't know how he does it, but anyway, good for him. But no, on from there, really, my dad was from the US and from Pittsburgh, which is why I'm a COVID Steelers fan. But that's another rabbit hole. But that aside, I was thought, well, I'll use my marketing degree. I was a graduate from De Montfort University, which is one of the best marketing schools, business schools in the UK. And actually, I was on vacation in Los Angeles when I was like 19 years old. And I was like, wow, the middle of February, the palm trees and sunny, and I'm sitting in the jacuzzi. I'm like, I have to live here compared to the contract and rain and cold of living in England. And so I basically got in a rental car and I drove up to a hair care company in the Valley here in LA called Redken at the time and said, hey, do you have any jobs? And they said, well, appreciate you trying here. We did nothing here in the US, but something in the UK. And that really is how my journey to the US began. And within short order, they offered me a job, and they were subsequently acquired by L'Oreal. And then someone came along and said, hey, you know what? We got an opening in the New York office. Do you want in? I was like, I've never been. I've seen all the cop shows on TV, but sure, why not? And that really began my career. And since then, I've been lucky enough to work twice for L'Oreal, which is the university of beauty when it comes to learning the space. So I remember that one building I was working in, 575 Fifth Avenue. Every floor is a different brand, from Lancome to Garnier, Maybelline, Redken, Matrix. All these different beauty brands under one roof. Incredible place. And then you put the backdrop of New York there. But I've also happened to work for other big companies like Wella. I had a good run there, building up their hair care, hair color business in the pro channel, and building up smaller brands, helping entrepreneurs get their dreams out on the shelf. And then I was very lucky enough to do what I'm doing now, which is the president of a company called Scientific Hair Research. Sounds very labby, technical. And within that umbrella of brands, one of them is Bosley. BosleyMD, which is, of course, an answer for mainly men, but men and women in the thinning hair space. And most recently, the company we acquired a brand for women called Keranique, which is a fantastic brand, which again solves women's issues around beauty, and in particular, giving them healthy, stronger hair at every age and every stage of their thinning hair journey in life, whether it be, menopausal or postpartum or younger or mature, whatever it is, we're there to help women in that journey. And as we know, in today's world, concierge approach kind of beats all when it comes to helping consumers along those types of problem solution journeys. So we have a number of brands underneath that umbrella. Got a team of like 20 odd folks who I'm lucky enough to work with. And we are solving those hair problems one day at a time. That's kind of the wrap on what I've been doing.
I love it. Well, awesome career. Thanks for walking us through a little bit of the highlights. So I've always wanted to ask a marketer like yourself, what is it like being a man inside of an organization where you are marketing primarily to females. I know that some of these beauty brands have a male skew, but it's way smaller than the women. Men's skincare is definitely super important now. Like, I don't know if you could tell, but I definitely use it. And obviously with brands that are, custom position to market to men, that's another story. But, just curious what it's like. You've had a huge career of, I think, mainly marketing to females. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And what a dynamic, because, it's on the face of it, if you're a single heterosexual guy working in an office, I should probably leave that one alone. But in generally speaking, look, I think I was lucky enough because I had a combined studies degree that had marketing and biosciences together. So I was kind of thinking about this world, but I never imagined for a minute I'd be completely in that type of space. And it really was down to a hairdresser who I knew back in the UK who said, hey, look, I work for this company in LA called Redken, you should try it out. And what I really was fascinated was the technology side of how they said their molecule jumped higher than the next one, and if it really worked on the hair. So I think I was drawn a little bit in from the science side.
Yeah.
And then the branding side was, I think, later in life more important to me. And I was lucky enough to be head of hair color for Garnier, and helped work and assist and work on great TV ads with Sarah Jessica Parker, for example.
I remember those.
Right? And nourished hair, better color. And so within that space, it was a wonderful experience to get true, as we say in England, fast-moving FMCG products, but here CPG brand marketing experience, which is very much almost as much science as an art in terms of analyzing what the consumer wants and then creatively putting that solution in an ad or on the shelf. And I really remember, one of the great things at L'Oreal they teach you when you're putting together concepting for new items and new products is you have to ask yourself and test this with the consumer. Is your new item, and there's two axes really, is your new item on the first axis relevant to the consumer? Are they really interested in that idea or product? And then the other axis is, how unique is it? Because you could have an idea that's unique, but the consumer has no interest. Or, it could be super relevant, but everyone's in the space. It's already cluttered. So finding that magic white space, as the marketing folks say, where you have a unique item that is relevant, and there is no one in there, that's where you really could make a killing. And that's why the last 3 or 4 years in the beauty space, the big wins, of course, were originally Moroccan oil, first to market with an oil product type for hair condition. And then along came Olaplex, who was all about, fixing, breaking hair. And then in between that, there was a company called Pureology who said, we can make women and men's hair color stay longer in the hair instead of washing it down the drain. And those 3 were white space opportunities. So everyone's kind of really trying to break in to that gold place there where you can find something unique and relevant.
So how much of finding that white space and the product fit is in R&D? Because, it almost seems like you guys are going as hard as the big pharma, as far as like trying to find something new, innovative that works, now in this new world where, people want natural or organic, but they also want like things that work well. And they want things that actually have like strength. They can't just be safe and clean, but they also have to be effective. I've been to beauty conferences in Monaco where they talk about, digging around in the Amazon jungle, looking for source elements and stuff. Like, it just does seem like the R&D side is a massive, massive component.
No doubt. And in fact, one of the market research groups I pay attention to is the Cosmo Vision, Cosmo Trends group, where I think they work with Beauty Matters. And they have these trade shows that go around the world. In fact, I'm going to the Hong Kong one in 2 or 3 weeks. And they have a great one in Bologna and one in Vegas. And they always have these great display cases. And here are the big trends. Well, the backdrop to this is that, as you correctly said, we're in an era where the consumer is more educated about products than ever before. And a lot of it is because of this. And so they can jump on and AI. Let's face it, you can't pull the wool over consumers' eyes anymore, because they can just go on AI and say, well, is Ian Murphy full of, tell me the truth behind, did Dylan really say that right? And before and how quickly, 2 seconds less, AI, ChatGPT is going to tell them, well, they were full. That's absolutely right. Or there's an ingredient I need to stay away from. In my experience, I've launched over 100 new products in my time. It sounds like a lot, and over the course of
It does sound like a lot.
30 years, well, it's a bit of labor of love, I think. And then you have your hands in each from a different perspective. But what I found over that time, it truly is a combo of MPD and marketing folks, or sales marketing, whatever, coming together. So it could easily be, sales and marketing folks doing analytics and saying, hey, look at the market. Surely someone should be able to solve this consumer problem. And I remember I was in a convention a year or two. It was the ERA, which is an infomercial direct TV, direct selling conference. And I remember a particular marketer coming up saying, Ian, what problem does this solve for her? And that really is where you start. And on the MPD side, it might be that the lab's constantly testing new innovation and saying, hey, I've just reinvented the wheel, and marketing, how can we bring it to market? So sometimes it's both of those, and often it's the marketing team pulling a brief together and saying, hey, MPD folks, R&D lab expert, is this reality? Can I do this or not? And so it's a real combination, I think, between doing the analytics, finding the white space, and then working with R&D to find out if that is a real, relevant and credible product we can get out the door. Is it realistic?
That's very interesting. Yeah, I saw you did a podcast with a scientist recently who was exploring how mitochondria have an effect on hair growth and hair strength and thinning and a bunch of things. And, I know that mitochondria is also just a trendy, thing going around right now, where everybody's talking about gut health and, forever chemicals and things that can be bad for your gut health, which is very mitochondria driven. And then what was really cool is the scientist mentioned that because of AI, he can basically go into the research and say, AI, go find every compound on Earth that's known to be effective in helping or restoring mitochondria. And then they've got, a bunch of different directions to go to. So that seems like so let me ask you this. Is mitochondria a trend, and then the community kind of galvanizes around it and kind of like, okay, we need to explore this? Or is that a insight from like the innovation community, and then the formulators, then go to battle and try to figure out what compounds actually have an impact? Like, can you tell me can it come from different places, or is there like a logical progression of like, there's the product insight and the innovation, there's the trend analysis, and then there's the go-to-market? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
A great point. And by the way, that, of course, was Dr. Kibash Singh from Yuba Biosciences. Great mind. Actually, I think he was working with Dr. Fauci during the pandemic to find solutions, but that's another story. But yeah, look, this macro trend, as I'd like to call it, of epigenetic beauty solutions. How can we affect the outside of a cell to make it switch on and create and build certain compounds that are needed for healthier living? And in this particular case, you're absolutely right. There was an incredible AI study conducted. Thousands of compounds were sourced and researched to find one that triggered mitochondria to switch on the building blocks that we need to create healthier hair. It's almost like turning our mitochondria back on again. We get to a certain point in age where things kind of slow down. That kind of sucks, right? And then so how do you find something that switches those pathways back on? And it seems from the clinical studies that we have received and collaborated on, that this process works by, affecting and inducing a positive effect from mitochondria in the skin and hair cells. And here's the best part of it. It's not just the fact that we can switch hair cells back on to grow if they're dormant, or not dead. Dead is dead, right? But dormant, if they're kind of like just not doing a whole lot and sitting there in the scalp, we can switch those on. And at the same time, the hair strands we have can also be made even stronger and better. Now, the part B of this, which is really interesting, is the same can be said for our skin cells. So the Uva Biosciences, the same people we've been working with, Dr. Singh has shown me, and his team has shown me before and afters with folks who have had scarring issues and other skin deformities, and how the mitochondria cells in the skin surface and in the skin cells below have been switched back on to develop the right type of molecules, enzymes, proteins to really help rejuvenate and improve the appearance of skin. So I think mitochondrial health is on the upside of the curve. If you think about a normal distribution, we haven't got anywhere near the peak yet, and certainly something else is going to come along that's smarter for sure. Just the way of the world that we know. First it was the bike, and then the motorbike, and the car, and whatever else, and now I've got an EV sitting in the driveway. But I think there is something very special about this technology, which is why they've got multiple patents worldwide. And now this product has become our #1 SKU in the company, and it's sold in like 20,000 points of distribution this year from everywhere, from salons to Walmart to Amazon.
That's wild. So I recently took a influencer to Tijuana for a medical tourism trip, 70-year-old man who had shoulder issues in his shoulder and knee, and he was being told by his doctor that he needed to basically have replacement surgeries. And we were able to find a partner down in Mexico that was willing to that gave him localized stem cell injections in his knee and his shoulder. And so far he's looking like he's on the path to recovery. He might need a follow-up in about 9 months. But when I was down there, they were also telling me about IV stem cells. Have you guys heard much about IV stem cells? Because they had talked a little bit about how that has an application for hair loss.
Absolutely. So the folks in the Bosley Hair Restoration Center here in Beverly Hills, they actually are working with a stem cell research concept. So that will be interesting how that works. I've certainly seen those same claims on our Facebook feeds. And also another reason why when our daughter was born 5-6 years ago, that we made sure that we collected her stem cells and put them into cryogenic, stasis, because you never know down the road how things might work.
Good to have it on hand, right? That's wild.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you all sorts of myth busters, because I feel like I have a wife that spends a lot of money on these products, so I need some expertise.
Sure.
So, does expensive always mean better or best, or is that just great marketing?
It can do. The answer is it can do. It depends on the IL, which is the ingredient list. It depends on also sieving through that, because there might be certain goodies on the ingredient list. It doesn't mean to say they're in an active level. So now typically, formulas are more expensive because of the either the package or the formula. If it's a unique package with some crazy concept, then yeah. But typically, it's the active levels in the formula. Like for instance, the Revive Plus product I was talking about has this AI sourced active inside of it. And like anything, I remember what it was like the first time we saw flat screen TVs come on the market. I mean, they were crazy prices. Remember, it was like $20,000 or so, and now you can get one for like $200. And so that's the economies of scale at work. And so, yes, I think there is an element. But again, it's about and we don't always have a lab equipment in front of us that can say, oh, this product has like 0.1% of hyaluronic acid, where you need to have at least 2% in a formula maybe to do something as a potential idea. So yes, it can do. I think it depends on the philosophy of the brand and the brand owner as well. I think that has a lot to do with it. We see a lot of these names that get bandied around, and whether it's specific ingredients, like Matrixyl is well known in skincare world as a tightening ingredient. When people see that, they're like, oh, must be good. Again, depends on what the concentration is in there. Now, I'll also tell you that in the shampoo world, not every shampoo is the same. A lot of shampoos in the past had ingredients that would strip hair color and also were seen to be irritants. So that was a price to pay for that, and that's why Pureology, that one brand I mentioned, was developed actually by my boss, and L'Oreal bought the technology and acquired that new technology, because there's a price to having that advantage, of course. So I think the answer is yes, with an asterisk, depending on the concentration of what they're, and again, the brand philosophy, what they're committed to, and where is it being sold. A lot of times, we know that products that are, sub $10, at the end of the day, if it's selling for $10, it means that the retailer probably bought it for $5, right? Which means, that they probably were sold it, the ingredients and so forth. And so you break all that down and say, okay, well, how could you make something for $1 that's going to really have this level of efficacy? And it comes back to what you said earlier. We're in the prove it now phase of consumer knowledge. And I think that's where you can really break things down as to, does it have the following ingredients? Does it have these concentrations? Does it have certain prove-its? Is it doctor recommended? That's one of the things we pride ourselves with the Bosley products on. When you have that seal of a doctor or physician on there, then I think you have also that extra bit of confidence.
Yeah, I like that. For me, it's probably a stupid reason, but I just love smell. When I think of Aveda, I think of that, that men's kind of, eucalyptus and manly, smells. And then same thing with soap. My dad had a Dr. Bronner's peppermint soap in the shower, and I still buy it to this day. But I don't know if that's a good way. I don't know if that's a good way to use my nose to select my hair care and dirt removal products. But all right, so I want to ask you a question, another wives' tale that I need you to myth bust for me. So my grandma told me when I was younger that if I keep wearing this hat, I'm going to lose my hair. I'm 43 years old, and I've got a nice head of it still.
Look at that!
Not too many grays. But
sorry, Grandma.
I love wearing this hat because I don't like to do my hair unless I'm going to go out and do something proper. Like if I'm going to go to dinner, if I'm going to go to a business meeting or something like that. But I don't know if you can tell, but I have kind of a Southern California surf vibe, and I don't know. I just really love wearing hats. So as an expert, should I be concerned with wearing my hat? Is that going to make my hair fall out earlier?
Wearing a hat is the number one best way to keep your hair, because you don't have.
Wow.
In California, of course, and anywhere where and this, look, let's face it, we know climate change is a thing, and the protective layer in our atmosphere is maybe not what it used to be, and we often think about sunscreen. And I wish we had thought about sunscreen 30 years ago, by the way, in more ways than we do today. And I think years ago we thought about it, well, look, you get a good burn. It's almost like a badge of honor back then, ridiculous as that sounds. But we never thought about, it's an aging issue. And it's a damage issue on hair follicles as well. And then at the same time, there's the possibility of cancer there too, skin cancer. So there's a number of elements there, which simply, wearing a hat out in the sun is the best thing. There are some sunscreens that are being developed for hair, but it's difficult to get them into the scalp, and they're oily and greasy and the rest of it, which is why the biggest hat you can wear at the beach is the best thing you can possibly invest in. The downside of pulling too hard on the hair is something that's called traction alopecia. And really, it's really a lot of women who have longer hair that pull the hair back into ponytails, and the African American community that have braids that they pull back. They're the folks that lose the follicles on the front first, because of that constant tying back, that pulling, that traction. As I said, traction is causing the follicles to be disturbed, to be disrupted, and potentially to die. So that is one issue, but as long as it's not like a hat that's pulling and a hair piece that's pulling so much, then you're good.
All right, you've heard it. You've heard it here. My hat is BosleyMD officially approved.
Yeah,
all right, so
right.
I want to pivot to how you guys are doing marketing over at Bosley and across some of the other brands that you guys operate. So. I was going through doing the research over the last few days, and I noticed that you guys also host your own podcast. I noticed that you guys sponsor many podcasts as well that are in and around hair management and hair loss prevention. So you guys are deep in the weeds in your lane and in your vertical. Can you talk a little bit more about the importance and the power of Bosley doing a podcast as Ian Murphy, the host? And could you also talk about some of the podcasts that you guys sponsor and that you, Ian, as the president, go on and guest to do, PR appearances, I guess, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think it's about credibility and integrity. And really, podcasts, of course, have created another arm, another spoke of the wheel to build awareness and engagement. Now, coming back to your first point, what did I start doing? Using LinkedIn and so forth, and it's really started with a mentor of mine. So I belong to a national mastermind group of other leaders. It's called the Jeff Hancher Champion Forum, and it's a bunch of leaders around the country. We meet every couple of weeks on Zoom and Teams, tackle the problems of today in the workforce as leaders. How can we become better leaders and so forth? So we have a really good, robust conversation about that. And one of the things that came out of a conversation a few years ago was how are we branding ourselves as executives, knowing that 5 years ago LinkedIn was a different type of platform. It was maybe a place where people put their resume up. And now it's become obviously very, very different in many ways, and such a great tool, not just for job seekers and job promoters, just a great sharing space amongst other things. And so we looked at it as leaders, as a place to brand ourselves as executives. LinkedIn, for me, again, is a place where you are showing folks what you're about as an executive. And it's not necessarily, and in my opinion, it's not necessarily everyone's. For me, it's not about, I got this award or that award. It's more about being of service. How can I share with someone about that wearing a hat in the summer is the best thing to do for hair loss? Or how can I have an expert come on and say, you need to take this supplement and here's the reason why. Here's another expert who's on with a doctor talking about the latest technology and why certain groups might use it. So I think for me it's about building your relevance. Which indirectly directly builds your credibility. So when people see one of your videos, they're like, "Oh, let me tune in a few minutes. This might actually be useful for me." Other than another accolade, and we're like, "Well, that's great, congrats!" And then we've already on to the next post. So it was really building ourselves as a brand was the reason for me doing it. And I've been slacking off a bit. I got to jump back on because I normally do this show called Thicker Hair Thursdays. And I think one of the biggest issues as content creators is keeping that content going while life hits you with all these other hurdles and speed bumps. But that's that. So on the branded side, look, one of the things I looked at when I came back into this space 5 years ago when I was asked to run this company was to ask myself, where are the consumers engaging? Where are they playing when they go to find their information about these types of products? Where are they going? And this was pre-TikTok, of course. So a lot of it at the time was Instagram and Facebook. But where else? Is it QVC, HSN? Is it Google advertising? And then, of course, the emergence of podcasts as an informational place to go. And I think actually what we've seen now in sports, of course, the last 12 months is how podcasts have become more visual rather than just audible. And I think that's done a lot. So that's made it look at the Pat McAfee show, for instance. People just tune in, not just necessarily to hear the content now, because these characters are interesting to watch and funny to listen to.
Yeah, totally. 75% of all podcast streams come from video now. So wow. If you think about that number, and I listen to a lot of them in the car, but I'm in the car, a lot, maybe when I go to LA for a couple of hours, but at night I'm watching podcasts on my couch for 2, 3, 4 hours before I fall asleep. So you think about the new user behavior that, linear television is kind of, I don't know, at least for a millennial my age, linear television is out. It's YouTube, it's podcast during the week, and on the weekends it's SVOD, you know, watching premium content with no ads. So the only time you're going to get me is podcasts, either in the car or during the week as my news. So
absolutely, or doing work in the yard, or going for a bike ride, or whatever it is. I find that a good space to listen to that, and then so yeah, it's navigating through that maze. But there's definitely a place. I don't think it's going away. But we have to look at the format and the delivery, the bite size fashion of it. I think a lot of people have now skinned it down to almost like daily takes of, you know, because not everyone has 45 minutes to an hour necessarily.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So I want to go back to LinkedIn because I think it's really interesting. You talked about it as a channel for executive branding, which I think you're doing a really good job of. You talked about adding value and being of service. You know, I've definitely leveraged my LinkedIn as a fractional CMO, CRO. It's my primary marketing tool that I acquire customers. And like you said, you know, all I do is go live with smart people that fill up the hour a lot more eloquently than I could, between 5 to 10 times a week. And then also if I go to an event, I might do 15 episodes in 4 days. So the big component for me is, like you mentioned, you know, add value, be of service. I think those are all great ideas. And I really love that from the perspective of a employer component, and then really thinking about like, what's your personal brand and an executive. But it seems to me that you guys almost use it as like a channel for the corporation, or maybe you are so good at it that your personal brand weaves very naturally around the corporate brand. But I saw another video that you put on your LinkedIn, which was a case study with a colleague of yours. She was maybe a beauty influencer herself. She was also a hair care professional, and she was someone who had a lot of advice and personal stories about her hair loss journey, of which your products played a part in helping her achieve that and fix that. So do you guys use LinkedIn because it's an untapped, underutilized channel for social? But I imagine my follow-up to that question is, you guys probably have a lot of retail partners that are on LinkedIn that might see that, you know, whether it's a salon owner or a med spa or a retailer. Do you use LinkedIn because you're B2B2C? Like, why do you do that?
Yeah, look, and our revenue stream comes in multiple facets. So we certainly have brands that are stronger. We have brands that are stronger on D2C, like Keranique, for example, has a really robust D2C platform. Whereas with Bosley, you know, it's a stronger B2B play. So to be honest, we do a lot of prospecting as well. But before I get to that, it certainly is a credibility play. I mean, I've had questions come back on some of my posts where folks have said, "Hey, that's great, but tell me more," or "I don't agree with that, tell me more." And you know, they're the fun ones, because at least you know folks are engaging with your content. So it's definitely about creating a communication platform with new and existing customers. The other part is being able to, of course, just like using Teams, jump over to a messenger opportunity. I mean, let's ask this question to our audience, right? How many folks have sent or received a video message in the last 30 days? Because they're the ones you are. I mean, because we all get a bit of spam now and then, but when someone drops a video message, you're like, I'm kind of tempted to see what they got to say.
Yeah,
versus right. Otherwise, it's like, delete. I ain't got time for that. So, but later on, and then, you know, I made this for you, Dylan.
Yeah, those custom videos I am actually pretty good at ignoring now, because I know they're AI generated. But the ones that I've actually been listening to a lot are the LinkedIn voice notes, like, because people took, you know, like, voice notes are cool because they're part of like the normal communication. You know, whether you send it a voice note on Slack or you send it on text, it's kind of become part of how you communicate. Like, you don't want to call somebody And the other cool thing is they disappear and there's no record of them too, right?
True,
So
true, true.
if you want encrypted conversation, it's sometimes better than
Right.
texting.
I've
Yeah.
been using, I was testing over the summer using BombBomb, which again, you can record videos and you can send it, and it looks like as a thumb, a thumb right there of your face, and with a message saying, "Hey, Dylan, love watching your podcast. Got a great idea that we can collaborate on a future one. Here's a message to explain more." You click on it. Of course, it's going to go to an external URL, and the video then pops up and says, "Hey, Dylan, thanks for clicking on this. Guess what? Here's my idea. How about we get together? And by the way, here's my Calendly link."
That's pretty good. I think I would probably fall for that one for sure.
We've got had a few, connect on that. It's definitely, I think any way we can, I hate the cliche, but it is what it is, break through the clutter
Sure.
and
Yeah.
show up different. This is one thing I remember my old boss at Garnier always used to say: show up in unexpected places.
That's great. That is definitely great. Yeah. When, talking about LinkedIn again, I remember recently there was, kind of the rise of the LinkedIn influencer, and that was a hot topic. And then all of a sudden you saw a Jennifer Lopez campaign on LinkedIn by one of the hair care companies or one of the beauty companies, I forget. But it was cool because like no one expects Jennifer Lopez to be on LinkedIn. Nobody expects her to be running a LinkedIn profile. Yes, she's a boss babe and a boss girl and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, she don't need no LinkedIn, that's for sure. And she established her LinkedIn campaign to do this particular campaign. And really what it was about was, women's security and women's self-esteem in the workplace. So it made sense for it to show up in LinkedIn, and it was jarring and it was unusual, and it got fanfare because it took advantage of a medium that you normally don't do celebrity marketing on.
Yeah. It's you're onto something there. I think people want to be able to engage with someone like that. There's a huge value to that, to build brand loyalty, interest, and share. It's the same as, I think, if you look at some of the other platforms out there. If an A-lister decides to spend a couple hours just answering audience, it's huge. And marketers can really build around that, resell it, and share it. I think it really builds a lot of integrity, other than saying, guess what, this person is now basically supporting my brand. And like, oh, they're doing your brand too now. But if they're actually active, invisible, and engaging, now it's believable and relevant, and it means something.
I like that. So when I think of Bosley, my mind goes to commercials. Like I feel like I can hear the Bosley commercials in my head, either from when I was a kid and I watched a lot of TV, or when I occasionally now will channel surf when I'm in hotels, which is kind of the only place left to experience TV, at least in my world. But the other thing that's interesting about even hotels is they're now giving you the YouTube app or the Netflix app inside of the hotel, or some kind of VOD. So soon you're going to be able to even skip commercials in hotels. I imagine you guys are going through a fairly major digital transformation. Excuse me for not knowing the extent of it and for how long it's been going on and why that was why you brought in. But can you talk to some of the key elements of taking a brand that's associated with massive TV spend and moving it into the digital marketing age?
Yeah, look, and so our company licenses the Bosley brand. So Bosley Hair Restoration has their own ad budget, and they spend against their building their funnel of men looking for hair restoration, particularly hair transplants. And then our side is all the non surgical elements. But look, but it's the same. It's the same question, and believe it or not, I mean, I've seen some media reports recently. There is still a robust linear market out there, no doubt about it. It's incredible. Now, look, we like CTV, connected TV, because it's kind of the soup du jour, right? We love our Amazon, Apple TV, Netflix. God, who would imagine Netflix would be the #1 destination It's mind blowing. And if someone at Blockbuster had listened to them, who knows? We all know the story there. But absolutely, it's that combo of still looking at linear, and within that, the DRTV space. You know, a lot of these infomercials that you might think, oh God, they're annoying and trying to get me to buy something. It's still relevant, not to maybe the degree that it was. But yes, CTV, live shopping, home shopping, it's all part of the media mix. And certainly I know that our friends at across the way here in Beverly Hills are certainly looking at that mix to get the right ROI, because for them, it's not just about getting people into the funnel. It's getting someone to actually come in and walk into one of those 60 Bosley clinics around the country, and then take the next step into getting a service of some sort. For us, it's slightly different. For like on our Keranique brand, for example, it's running media, again, whether it's linear, whether it's connected, whether it's digital, to get them into a funnel, which then can help them on a different level get a continuity program that they get their package of hair care products sent every 30 days, proven with the statistics and clinicals and before and afters, of course.
That's awesome. Is the hair care products kind of a like a stage one of intervention in hair loss? Like, would potentially your brand be the first touch point with the consumer? Maybe that helps slow things down, but then eventually they're still going to want to go in and do a transplant if it gets bad enough.
Yeah, I think there's three key steps. That should be four. It should be your hat first, right? But anyway, the other three stages certainly are hair care preparations, which can remove this nasty little molecule off the scalp called DHT, which micronizes and prematurely forces their hair strands to fall out. That's the first thing. And having enough nourishing nutrients, I like that, nourishing nutrients on the scalp to help the scalp and the hair follicles be at their best. That's kind of stage one. And then stage two is like, okay, I need more help. And that would be more of the hair regrowth type of densifying product, which is like minoxidil, which many of us are familiar with. And we certainly have enough of those products in our assortment. Or it's the newest technology, the mitochondrial health products we talked about with the Revive Plus product we talked about, of course. And then after that, then you're into other devices, maybe like lasers and so forth. It could also be supplements with vitamins that give you the building blocks that bring back to your hair. And then the last stage, of course, is like, well, I've done all that. I still need help. And then it's, of course, you're fighting against Mother Nature, and the last remaining way is to again do that hair transplant, which has come a long way now.
Oh yeah, people look great.
Oh, it's invisible, and instead of taking clumps now, it's done follicle by follicle, and so that's why the placement. It's become a real artist type of service, the way that it's conducted.
Yeah, no, that's wild. So I wanted to ask you about graying. Because, yes, I've got a nice bushy head of hair still at 43, but my dad was like, he was white by the time he was in his mid 40s, and I'm luckily not going that fast. But do you guys do anything on the graying side? And I'm more interested in supplementation than I am in dyes. What do you guys, are you guys working at all on color from a supplementation perspective?
That's a great point. One of the side benefits of this new Y100 Uva Bioscience product, the mitochondrial science product, is that it has shown that when the hair regenerates, that dormant hair comes back through the scalp, it's actually coming through with more pigment. And so it's not coming through as gray hair, which is crazy. And so now we're looking to see, if we can develop a super formula that really has those color claims. That's going to be bananas. Unfortunately, other than that, there's not a lot you can do. Certainly taking supplements is going to help put your hair and scalp in the best way to give it the ingredients it needs, such as saw palmetto for a guy, or rosemary and other ingredients, and zinc and iron for a woman. So we certainly, I think it's like a holistic thing. We got to take the supplements. We got to use the right hair products, the treatment products we talked about. I think that they're the kind of minimums that we want to do to get everything working in our favor. And then, don't sit out in the sun for 4 hours without a hat on.
I love it. I love it. So I wanted to also ask you about whether you guys lean into the lifestyle component of what accompanies hair loss and hair thinning. So I was stricken by the video that was the testimonial from the woman that we mentioned on LinkedIn, where she talked about the idea that it wasn't just, you know, genetics and things of that nature, but it was also it was highly tethered to her stressful lifestyle and job. And she mentioned that in addition to all of the interventions that she was doing with Bosley products, she was also becoming a yoga teacher and trying to figure out ways to manage stress and things of that nature. So do you guys in your marketing approach the idea of the lifestyle of being a wellness brand in addition to being really smart with science and pharmacology, et cetera? How does that lifestyle element, kind of touch into that fear of, losing your hair?
Yeah, I think it depends on the brand personality to a degree. Certainly in social media, you need to touch on some of those things from a holistic standpoint and make sure you've got all the spokes of the wheel checked off. On Bosley's side, we're more of a doctor-backed solution, so it is more scientific. And so with Garnier, it's more of a beauty lifestyle, life stages. So in that respect, you can see the difference in messaging.
Love that. All right. I read a story. I think it maybe was from your university or a college that you attended. I don't know if it was undergraduate or graduate, but it talked about an intern program that you guys run and the fact that you guys also bring these interns internationally with you to some major trade shows and really give them a pretty amazing experience. I thought that was pretty cool. Can you talk a little bit about how either that program or your approach to mentorship and professional development builds the employee brand within your portfolio of companies?
Absolutely. And really, I think it comes down to company culture again. We believe in an education and learning culture, which is why we have a sales coach and we have an EQ coach in our company. And then on top of that, my university is De Montfort, which is in the UK. And something which I wanted to do was like a give back to where I came from. And so what we are doing now is bringing marketing students into corporate world and identifying key projects, which quite frankly, sometimes we don't have the time for. They can get credits for that too. And so it's a great reciprocal relationship. So we're going to be doing more of that in the future.
Love it. All right, Ian, what are you most excited about for the future at your role managing the Bosley? And do you pronounce it keratin? Is that how you pronounce the second word?
Well, as we close up shop here, so I have to run momentarily. But yes, I think we really have a wonderful portfolio of brands now, something for men, something for women, and some other things under the hood that we're working on. I'm super excited. It's going to be coming soon. And there's no doubt this space is uber hot right now. It's not going away. One of the biggest drivers of the growth in this space has been the last 10 years of women coming in and saying, hey, me too, no pun intended. But it really has been that demand and need, which has now made marketers and R&D, new product developments, going back to where we started, saying, hey, I need to address the life stages of a woman, the life stages of a man, and there then opens up opportunity for new products and services.
I love it. Do you want to point anybody to where they should learn more and or if they want to connect with you professionally?
Absolutely. Come visit me on my LinkedIn page, Ian Murphy, and you could also, hit me up on my email address. All my information is on my LinkedIn page, ianm@bosleymd.com. Visit bosleymd.com. Visit keranique.com for more information. Again, we'll be excited to interact with you on LinkedIn, and we can share some messaging there. And please join us on Thicker Hair Thursdays.
I love it. Well, thanks so much, Ian. Really appreciate you making the time. I'm going to go ahead and kick you backstage so you can get on with your evening. Thanks again. We'll see you soon. All right, everybody. I hope you really enjoyed that conversation with Ian. What a cool guy. great marketer. I think he really knows his stuff, and I'm excited to go back and re-listen to that episode myself. So, hey, I really appreciate you joining for the third time this week for a live show. So if you enjoyed wherever you might be listening today, if you go ahead and subscribe or follow us, that'll make sure you get more amazing content from different marketers throughout the C-suite as I continue to basically get an MBA in marketing through other people that are much smarter than I am. So please follow or subscribe. And also, more importantly, if you give us a review, really just any kind of review, but we appreciate a 5-star review. That will help us find an audience organically. And most importantly, if there's somebody out there in the beauty industry, maybe somebody in leadership over a CPG brand, or most importantly, if there's just somebody who you think would benefit from the conversation that I had with Ian today, don't forget to share the episode. And with that, we'll go ahead and say good night to you, and we will see you again on the